Good morning, televiewers, and thanks for joining us on WafricaTV. As we all know, the 19th June is the World Awareness Day for sickle cell. And today we are going to receive our guest who is going to enlighten us more on this. But before we continue, let's take this presentation. Sickle cell disease is one of the most common genetic causes of illness and death in the world. Recognized as a public health issue by the United Nations General Assembly in 2008, sickle cell disease was one of the earliest identified genetic disorders. Welcome back on stage. As I earlier said, we are receiving our guest, and our guest today is a clinical biologist entitled, he is called Mr. Samuel Chadrack. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Kesia.
We are happy to have you today.
I am happy as well to be here with you.
Okay, concerning the World Sickle Cell Awareness Day, as you are a clinical biologist, can you give us the scientific definition of a sickle cell disease?
Okay, the sickle cell disease is a group of complications that happen as the result of the altering of the shape of a red blood cell. And normally a red blood cell is round, if I should say that. But when someone has sickle cell, his red blood cells become crescent. So when this happens, it creates a number of complications.
Okay, and concerning the sickle cell, what are the causes of the sickle cell? What causes a child to be a sickle cell?
Now, one thing we need to understand is this is an autosomal recessive disease. That's a disease due to the fact that a child inherited a muted gene from the parents.
One of the parents or the
yes,
two parents?
or both.
Okay, from both parents.
Both of the parents, yes.
Okay, then concerning this illness, what can you tell us about the fact that the sickness is so-called to be a disease for Africans? Let me put it that way.
Now, some research proposed that sickle cell is as a result of a mutation that occurred because, you know, in Africa, malaria is endemic, and the body tried to counteract this. So it is believed that this is why in Africa we have this disease. So it was a mechanism that the body put in place to fight against malaria. This is what some research proposed.
Then as for you, how far do you see it to be?
I think it's the most satisfactory scientific answer to this, but it is always important to know that anybody can have sickle cell, even if you're from the Western world or you're from you're
any
an Arab.
Any part of the world.
Yes, you can have it, but it is mostly like the prevalence in Africa is high because this research proposed that it was a way to combat malaria, but unfortunately it comes with a lot of
we Africans, with our own superstitions, we thought it was because of our skin tone, because we are black, that's why the disease mostly takes us. So thanks for telling us that that's not the fact. Concerning the tips, how can you advise everyone concerning this disease so that in case we should not contact this disease?
Okay, I will start by telling you again or reminding you how you can get sickle cell. So you don't have unprotected sex and then you have sickle cell disease, or you eat contaminated food. No, it is as a result of the transmission of two muted genes from your parents. Okay, and for this to happen, there should be codominance of the recessive gene. Codominance of the recessive genes means that you have the S and the S as your hemoglobin genes, and when this happens, you manifest the disease. So for you to avoid this situation, it is making sure that you know what is your hemoglobin profile, and you know the hemoglobin profile of your spouse or wife or husband. As such, you will be able to know if your children have chances of getting sickle cell disease,
if there will be carriers or not.
Yeah, so if there could be carriers. Now, sickle cell disease itself has a lot of pathophysiologies. That's, you know, the different complications and crises are so diverse. That is why we call it sickle cell disease. You will have sickle cell anemia. Of course, remember that the red blood cell is used in the body for oxygen transportation, right? So if you have a red blood cell that is not able to transport oxygen, what will happen? You will not have enough oxygen in your body, right? And that's what we call anemia. Now, apart from anemia, remember that the shape of these red blood cells are sickled, right? You know what's a sickle?
Yeah.
A sickle is a tool that is used in agriculture to harvest plants. It looks like a crescent moon. Now, when these red blood cells have this shape, they become much more sticky, and they cannot squeeze in between. Pardon?
Squeeze in the banana form.
No, they cannot squeeze in between vessels, and they agglutinate and stick. And when they agglutinate and stick, they cause what we call vaso-occlusions. And this vaso-occlusion, imagine if it happens in your brain, you will have a stroke. You know what's a stroke, right?
No stroke, yeah.
Okay.
Even though we say most people who have strokes are old people.
Yes.
We always say old people have strokes.
Yes, being old is a predisposition to that, but also being a sickle cell patient is also a predisposition to that, because your red blood cells will agglutinate and prevent blood from like the flow of it, and then you will have a number of complications. So to avoid that, make sure you know your hemoglobin profile and that of your companion.
Okay, thank you. Concerning SCT, which is sickle cell trait, and SCD, which is sickle cell disease, can you enlighten us on the difference?
Okay, now the normal, remember that sickle cell is as a result of a mutation, right, on the hemoglobin. Now, hemoglobin is a protein found in the red blood cells that is responsible for carrying oxygen. Now, when this mutation occurs, right, you have now a muted gene that we will indicate here as S. So the normal gene is A, and the muted gene is S. Now, the sickle cell trait is when you have a normal hemoglobin gene and a sickle cell gene. That's AS. We talk of sickle cell trait. That's, you have the trait, you have the allele. I will not make a science class here, but just remember that a gene is expressed as two alleles, okay? Two alleles. So for this gene, the sickle cell gene, to express itself, it needs to be two of them, if I should make it as simple as possible. So now, if you are a carrier, a healthy carrier, or if you have the sickle cell trait, you will have a normal hemoglobin, which is the hemoglobin A, and the sickle hemoglobin, which is the hemoglobin S. Thank you. That's wonderful.
Thank you so much for the class. Thank you so much for the class. One last question I would like to ask concerning the campaign. We heard you organize campaign some days back concerning the electrophoresis. Yeah, people were coming out to carry out tests. We want to know your satisfaction about this campaign you carried out.
Okay, now this initiative was put in place by the Cameroon Association for Molecular Biology and Biotechnology Initiatives. And our objective here was to help young people between 18 and 46 years, that's the reproductive age, to know their hemoglobin status. Remember, if you know that you are AA or you are AS, you know the type of spouse you can have. Yes, if you are AA, you can have a spouse who is AS. Now you will have just healthy carriers as children. But if you are AS and your spouse is AS, you have chances to have a child who will suffer from sickle cell. So our aim with this campaign was actually to make sure that people within this age range will know their hemoglobin profile. As such, will help avoid having children we are satisfied by our efforts, the volunteers, the venue and everything, but we believe that there is still much more that has to be done with regards to this disease. The Ministry of Public Health, you and I, the different communities, we need to come together for us to fight against these diseases. okay, with regards to how we can prevent it, with regards to how it can be managed, and with regards to the stigma that roams around this disease.
Thank you so much for this, I would say, lesson, because we learned a lot with all what we've heard today. And thank you, televiewers, for being attentive. Thank you for receiving us today, Mr. Chadrack Samuel. We are sorry, this is the end of our interview. And thank you for accepting our request.
Yeah, the pleasure is mine. I'm very happy to have been here, and I would just want to send a message like this to all those out there who have not yet done their electrophoresis of hemoglobin. Please endeavor to do that, because by doing so, you know your status and you can avoid, you know, that situation where you have a child suffering from sickle cell. Today, close to 150 participants to our campaign. We believe that this platform is also standing to fight against sickle cell disease.
As we all heard, we should go in for a hemoglobin electrophoresis in order to know our genotype. Televiewers, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you give us a thumbs up. Meet you again in our next edition. Bye-bye.